One of the first projects that I attempted to take to Universal, to a guy in business affairs who took a liking to me, was a project called Adam's Ark. And my concept was there was a Time magazine cover, I think, of everyone who had ever been on Time magazine's cover. They tried to have a birthday party or something. This is a long time ago now. And I mean, it would have had everybody on there. It would have had from astronauts to sports stars to scientists. It was really if you knew that you had D-Day approaching or a nuclear disaster approaching, and my premise was that Howard Hughes's computers have predicted that the end of the world as we know it within a finite period of time, and these people were all invited for this cover party at this massive something in the edge of the desert in Nevada. And this is at a time when Howard Hughes was not, nobody knew where he was, supposedly up in that suite on the top floor. And Mayhew and all these people, very few people. I interviewed a guy later. He said only saw him 3 times in 20 years he worked for him. Once was on a railway exchange car when he was on his way into Vegas. So, but he was also the dean of aviation and science and all of those things. So I thought it made some sense. So he invited all these people, and at some point they hear this kind of rumble and whatever, and someone makes it up to like the bridge, and they realize that they're in the air, that this massive modern building has taken off and is carrying off into the universe the creme de la creme of the world's most brilliant people. And the idea is that this is going to be a journey. And Star Trek did not start off as the darling of the broadcasting world. When I was still in the preps and living out in Sierra Madre and just barely married, whatever, and I remember watching a couple episodes of Star Trek, and the first season was fairly fragile. And Gene Coon came in, I think, the second season, and they did some of their more distinguished works with Harlan Ellison and a few others, especially Dean, by the way. He was a real student of humanity, and so he'd bring some really core values into a lot of these episodes. They weren't just Monster of the Week and so forth and so on. So that show went off the air, I think, at the end of the 3rd season or something, and the networks were not clamoring for the next science fiction show. A few years later, Star Wars comes along, and every network desk has scripts on it. It now has The Day the Earth Stood Still, War of the Worlds. All of these things are on desks. And I wanted to do my space journey, but instead of starting from Earth, I had become a big fan of a couple of books, but they all dealt with the potential of contamination here on this planet from other worlds. And today we're getting much closer to the philosophy of some of these theories that perhaps rocks that came here from Mars had bacteria on them, and from that bacteria we evolved eventually over billions of years and whatever and ever. And so I love the idea of going all the way back out in space and bringing the remnants of that world and trying to find Earth. It was like reversing the thing, and the battles and things that they would meet on the way. And many of the concepts that I was playing with are sort of being revisited now, and I know what one of them was. I think it was von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, and Hancock's written books called Fingerprints of the Gods, and a couple of our episodes were even various things of the gods and something out in space. So my premise was simple, and again, it's like if you take something to a network, says, "Can we put a Mercedes grill on it?" Or this or that. I thought we had a pretty good premise, because when you really examine it, nobody really knows who, to a finite fact, who or how they built the pyramids. They certainly have never solved the problem of, unless we have some anti-gravity device or something. You build a thing to get up to the top, but how do you build that? There's so many loose ends. The technology and the science of the stars, that ancient civilizations like the Mayans and the Toltecs and the Egyptians they still don't know what was the mother civilization that spawned these technologies. An Aztec calendar that is still plus or minus a few seconds after thousands of years, in which, by the way, I think predicts we all end in 2012 or something, would be the end of the next big epoch. So I really love the mythology and the theology of, there are those who believe that life here may have begun out there beyond the stars, where even now humans fight for their survival. That was the premise. It's fairly simple. One of the most successful shows in the history of television was Wagon Train, and it's just about the journey. Once in a while, their scout would go ahead and get into some trouble in the next town, or try to ferret out some, whatever. But I thought that was a very simple concept, and fairly well proven to be one in which you can do human values, and it could be a successful show. Our platform was good. John Dykstra being available to help us, and Fox making Industrial Light and Magic available to us, along with many other things. It was just a dream come true that we could put this together.